The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
In May 2021, the eyes of the country were on Bolton as a sharp spike in COVID-19 infections put the town at the epicentre of the third wave of the pandemic. Having already faced one of the most difficult years in living memory, the people and institutions of Bolton were asked once again to step up to meet the challenge. That moment and their response deserves to be documented for posterity. In the spirit of the Worktown archives, which documented life in Bolton in the 1930s, The Art of the Possible celebrates the remarkable achievement of the town in dealing with the COVID-19 surge, creating a public record of this event of historical significance. The Art of the Possible paired up artists with organisations and community groups to tell the story of this extraordinary time. My name is Gwen Riley-Jones and I am a photographer and socially engaged practitioner based in Greater Manchester. I was matched with Bolton Carer Support based upon my work with Holocaust survivors and refugees, and I have a long history of collaboration with vulnerable groups and individuals. I also have lived experience of being an unpaid carer during the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the course of 2022 and 2023, I met with a group of unpaid carers at Bolton Carer Support to explore how the group would like to share stories of their experiences of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of our discussions, the Moving On, Bolton Carers' Experiences of COVID-19 book was produced. This short video tells parts of their stories, recognising the tragedy of the pandemic, the many loved ones lost, the important moments missed, and the lives changed forever.
My name is Chris. I'm a former carer, a term we all wish would be rarer. Yet there are many of us who have lost. In the pandemic, those cared for paid the final cost. And we who are left have an ache and some tears. Yet with Bolton Carers, we are able to cope with our fears. We go for walks or meditate. Others do drama. Some even use craft as a way around the trauma. Yet others are involved in specific projects, like writing our story so the moment is kept, so others may read them and no one forgets just what COVID meant when life was reset.
During the COVID pandemic, we diversified our offer to carers away from face-to-face interaction to a host of activities online via Zoom and offering access to IT equipment and training by telephone to assist access to the internet. We made proactive calls to carers to ensure they were coping with lockdown and offering assistance and information to help in any way that we could. Our service became a lifeline for many carers who are finding it hard to cope due to isolation. No one had heard of Zoom, let alone used it, but we got on an almost vertical learning curve, and through much trial and error, very quickly we became experts with many a "can you hear me?" or "you're on mute" ringing out over the internet. In addition to our activities by phone and online, I coordinated the sourcing and delivery of free personal protective equipment to carers over a 12-month period, during which time almost 100,000 items of PPE were distributed. From a personal perspective, I used the time away from work that was available during lockdown to pursue something that I'd been putting off for a lifetime. I was born in Liverpool and was adopted shortly after by my parents. Throughout my life, I'd often wondered about my birth family, but always shied away from making any inquiries. However, the time was right for me to trace my birth family, and if successful, to at least let them know that I was okay. I went into the search with no real expectations and was fully aware that it could be a fruitless exercise. However, my wife had joked that I would have a new family by Christmas, and with the help of a wonderful charity in Scotland, I eventually made contact with my birth mother, half sister and half brother, who all live in the Liverpool area, and during the second COVID lockdown, we met for the first time on Zoom. The medium that had caused us so much angst in my early days of its use had become a way for me to achieve a lifetime's dream. To meet, albeit online, my birth family. Once the lockdown was lifted, we had a tearful physical meet-up, and we are now one big, happy family. It is like we've known each other for all our lives, and we're as close as any family. I'm truly blessed to have found my new family, and my wife was right all along. I did have a new family for Christmas.
Lockdown affected all our lives in many ways, some good but mostly bad. As a night worker, caring for elderly clients in a care home, it was gratifying to have been able to keep COVID out of the home for the first year, but inevitably it came. The first thing I knew of its presence in the home was entering the manager's office to find her in tears. The inability to keep our residents safe from COVID hit her hard. The home's atmosphere changed almost beyond recognition. We had plenty to do at night, regularly checking the most vulnerable clients and tending to any emergencies, while at the same time performing necessary chores in preparation for the morning shift's arrival. We tried to ensure a quiet and peaceful night's sleep for all. Now, however, the silence was eerie. People seemed too poorly even to ring for our attention. Quietly popping our heads into the rooms of these very ill elderly people gave me a feeling of apprehension. Despite my best efforts, before long, I myself tested positive. I brought COVID home to my husband and son. With youth on his side, my son did not suffer too badly, but my husband, though not hospitalised, was very ill. It seemed as though his entire body and mind were affected. A positive in all of this was an amazing GP who recognised and treated his symptoms, and also reassuringly predicted what was to follow. She herself had had a similar experience of COVID some months earlier. Another positive which arose from lockdown was Zoom. We have a large friend group due to our faith, and whilst unable to meet in person, we stayed in contact via this medium. With certain friends, we checked in on a daily basis to find out what was needed, to ensure one another's welfare and to encourage one another, a habit that has been maintained to this day.
My name is Melanie, and I began writing poetry during the COVID pandemic. For many, it was a time of isolation and fear of catching and spreading the COVID-19 virus. People with existing medical conditions were most vulnerable, including the loved ones we cared for. This poem, called The Enemy at the Door, is about my growing fear when a worker called to do an essential repair and did not put on the expected face mask to protect us from the virus. I was horrified, but too shocked to challenge him. The enemy at the door. Knock at the door, peer through the window. Looks fine, come in. Just get my bag. Heaves it in, panting. Drinks me in, thirstily. What's the problem? Low, husky voice lures me in deeper, neck hair bristling, lithe back arching. I'll soon fix that, he says. Opens the bag, turns to me, grinning, foul breath snarling, razor fangs dripping. Too late, I've let the wolf in. Thankfully, COVID vaccines were developed. They transformed our lives, helping us move from fear towards hope. This poem, called The Blessing, describes my feelings waiting in line for my first COVID vaccination. the blessing. We wait behind the yellow lines taped to the floor. We are a segment of humanity. Some never made it here, alas. We shiver in anticipation, expecting a miracle. Silence falls. A nurse lifts the vial like a priest blessing wine, not red as blood, but life-giving bringer of hope.
Is it wrong to say that the last few months have been glorious? I don't want to come across as callous or uncaring. I recognise the difficulty that this virus has caused for people the world over. And I offer my deepest sympathies to anyone who's lost somebody close to them and isn't able to properly mourn due to the isolation. I wish that nobody had to suffer in this way. But for me personally, as an adult in my 30s who was diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum just a few years ago, lockdown was actually a wonderful relief. I've always been a loner, even from a young age. And in a perfect world, I'd love to follow the footsteps of Chris McCandless or some other famous hermit, wandering out into the wilderness to live miles away from any human contact. Even though that isn't currently possible for me, I still spend countless hours locked away in my room at our family home, lost in virtual wildernesses, in computer games, where real life can't intrude. So as you might imagine, being forced to stay at home and not to see anyone was largely a dream come true for me. With appointments cancelled and social occasions off the table, I actually felt more free, more in control and relaxed than I'd ever really had in the bustling, overwhelming world before the pandemic. The peace and quiet of the normally busy road outside was a breath of fresh air, and I revelled in it. Ironically enough, I think I actually saw more people during lockdown than I did before. Thanks, Zoom, I say with a heavy helping of sarcasm. With the boom in that and other video call apps which proliferated as the world stayed at home, my parents would frequently contact friends and family members to see how they were doing. And to some degree, I felt obligated to show my face. But even though this was hard, it was still somewhat more manageable than having to speak to them in the flesh, as the screen and camera created a sort of barrier in my mind, an invisible force field, which retained a certain degree of separateness and distance. Also, I could leave the call anytime it got too much for me, escaping back to the sanctuary of my room and leaving my parents to confabulate ad nauseum. As I write this, lockdown is beginning to lift, and life is starting to resume its breakneck dash of normality. Already I have a doctor's appointment to attend in just a few days, and a weekly autism discussion group is being arranged for me and a number of others on another of those darn conference programs. The road outside is once again roaring with the sound of traffic, and again my anxiety begins to rise with it. Once more, I'll be expected to take part in this barely controlled chaos that we call society, conforming to all the social norms of interaction and socialisation, all the while suppressing panic attacks, sensory overload, and mental emotional breakdown. The quiet, calm, and reassuring control tasted so briefly during the isolation will again slip away into the realm of nothing more than fantasy on a computer screen, and life will intrude anew. I recognise that not everyone is like me. While I don't understand their viewpoints, I respect that some really need social interaction in order to be happy. I do deeply feel for anyone who has lost someone in the pandemic, maybe grieving without the ability to get full closure on the pain. This is a terrible situation, and I would not wish it on anyone. But for all the darkness, as we begin to pick up our lives once more, and the world again begins to turn, can we remember that once, just for a short time, we had a little peace and quiet, and that, specifically, was wonderful.
My name's Tracy Lee. What did I learn about myself? During lockdown, I learned a great deal about myself and my resilience. I realised how important it is to maintain a positive focus, even in challenging circumstances. Engaging in activities provided by Bolton Co support via Zoom helped me stay connected and active, preventing isolation from overwhelming me. I discovered the value of appreciating the small, often overlooked aspects of daily life, such as the beauty of nature and the simple joy of having time to reflect. The lockdown taught me the importance of adaptability and the need to shift my usual thought patterns to cope with new realities. Being surrounded by my family, we all supported each other through difficult times, which strengthened our bonds and brought us closer. This experience highlighted my ability to find positivity and gratitude in adversity, and I realised that I have a strong inclination to help others, even when I needed to take time for myself. Finally, the lockdown emphasised the significance of mindfulness and paying attention to the world around us, from presence of animals to the buzzing of bees. It was a time of learning and personal growth, where I discovered that I could remain calm and appreciative, focusing on the good rather than dwelling on the negative.
What do you do when a real goodbye is not possible? Many must have struggled with this during the COVID rules. I decided that a memorial to express my love, our love, would be my way of saying a proper goodbye to him. What would be appropriate? What would be meaningful? In my case, there were several ideas. The first was his bike and a rose. This stands proud in the garden, looking over the views we shared, bringing back fond and happy memories each day. I also designed a unique memorial table representing our travels, our hobby, our friends and family, and our profession. It shows all 7 continents of the world. We had visited them all. These are depicted using mineral specimens from or associated with each of the regions we collected from each of them, except Antarctica, of course. Many of these were donated by family and friends from all over the world. They say there is a reason. They say that time will heal, but neither time nor reason will change the way I feel. No one knows the heartache that lay behind my smiles. No one knows how many times I've broken down and cried. I just want to tell or ask him something and find that I cannot. He was marvellous to live with and is wonderful to think of, but so hard to be without. I miss the sound of his voice, his smile and his laughter, the clarity of his advice, the stories we would tell, the plans he would make. I miss walking together, hand in hand, but I have memories. We each have our own unique memories of our loved ones. It is within my memories that I can visit him. He is not lost to me. I can take my memories with me wherever I am. These special memories will often bring a smile and remind me that although no longer here, I can always find him within my heart.
My name is Cynthia Taylor and I married my brilliant, compassionate and caring husband, Kevin, in 1966. Unfortunately, Kevin developed Parkinson's in 2014 and at first was able to lead a relatively normal life. But as the years passed, he gradually worsened and nurses and carers were called in to help with his daily needs. In 2020, I was advised that Kevin now needed full nursing care. Then on the 18th of September, he went into a nursing home. This was the beginning of an horrendous time, as I fully believed I would see him within the week. But it was not to be. As 2 days after going into the nursing home, COVID rose its evil head. Consequently, the man who had been married to for 55 years, I was unable to have any contact with for 6 months. Then the government decided on March 8th, relatives could see their loved ones in care homes. Regrettably, COVID was brought into the home and Kevin caught the disease and sadly passed in March the 11th, 2021. I have nothing but admiration for the staff. Their continued professionalism throughout the COVID was honourable. There isn't a day that goes by when I don't think about Kevin. Our love and special memories of our years together are as precious as the day we first met. This is Love by Kevin Taylor. What can I say? What can I do? There is nothing more to life than love. For if I love you, then that is all. There is no more sorrow, for all is joy. So let us love forevermore, accept our failures, extol our joys, for this is love, and love endures, beyond our hopes and desires, beyond our expectations, for love is all, and love endures forever and forever.
We'd love to thank everyone who's taken part in this project. I've had some fantastic feedback. Peter from our team was also involved in the project, and it really seems that everyone has got so much out of it, both as an individual but also as part of the group. The experience, sharing their experiences, has been an emotional journey for them, but so valuable at the same time. So we just really want to thank everyone for being so honest and open and so giving really with the project. Of course, we would also like to thank Bolton CVS for the Artist in Residence project funds, which has enabled us to do this. So we're very grateful for that too, to be able to produce such a resource that we can share and use to raise awareness of people's journeys as a carer. And finally, just to say at Bolton Carer Support that we are here for any carer who's over the age of 18. That's an unpaid carer, family member, friend, neighbour, who looks after someone, so someone's dependent upon them. It can be for however many hours a week they care for. As long as someone needs them in that caring role, we can then support the carer. We do offer free confidential advice on our helpline, and the helpline number is 01 204 363 056, and that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also have a range of other support and services, so we give information, we signpost to other services. We have a telephone befriending scheme. We offer benefits, advice and support. We offer opportunities to meet people, to tackle isolation, make new friends. So we offer outings and trips. And we also offer lots of factual courses as well. So maybe lasting power of attorney, wills, but also really nice courses around arts and crafts, meditation. So really what we'd like to say to people maybe seeing this is, if you're a carer looking after someone's dependent on you, reach out and contact us. If you know of someone else who's in that role and would need some help, encourage them to contact us. We really want people to get in touch before they hit crisis point. We can't fix sometimes the situation, but we can certainly make the journey a bit easier.